Okay, Thrive Nation, I've got an entrepreneur. I've got someone who's been involved in health startups for a long time. He's been a founder of Elo Health, and I'm excited to talk to him because I want to speak about the future of health, where health is going. I think his smart nutrition company, Elo, is something very fresh, possibly looking to bring these things into Africa, just depending on the technology that he uses. So welcome to the show, Ari Tulla.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
Brilliant, Ari. I think we're not going to start with your backstory. We've probably got about 5-10 minutes to really grab the listener's attention. I think what you've done with regards to smart nutrition and Elo is amazing. Just tell us about the future of health. It seems like chronic disease is sort of just growing exponentially. It doesn't seem like we're sort of winning against these epidemics that are taking hold of, especially modernity and Western living. Where is the future of health in terms of combating and preventing chronic disease?
Thank you. That's a big question. And I live in the US. And if you look at the US market today, this is a big problem. I mean, yes, it's a problem in every part of the world. But it's all starting today from the US, where we kind of invented this new Western diet that many of us are consuming on a daily basis. It means, of course, highly processed food. It means a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugar. And what's happening today is extremely dire. Just to give you a couple numbers, in the US today, 80% of people, adult population, are overweight. Half of them are obese. If you go back 40 years, the number was 50 and 20. So we're talking about the massive shift in that time frame. And it really has happened because we basically introduced the processed food not only to the workplace and restaurants at home, but also to the schools. So we have had now the first generation of people, about our age, people who basically have been eating this food since they were 5, 6 years old, and now they're getting sick, not at the age of 70, 80, but at the age of 35 to 50. And many people will die younger than their parents did. So what's happening today? In the last 5 years, we have seen the health span and the lifespan and life expectancy going down for the first time since the Second World War. And never in our recorded history of 2000 years, it has happened before. So that's kind of where we are looking at this alarming trend. And what will the health look like? I mean, we just have to make a complete U-turn and not spend more money on medication or trying to find another pill that can help you. We have to take us from the bootstraps, and we have to be accountable, not the healthcare system, not the government, but you and me. We need to become accountable. And to do that, we need better tools. We need to know more about what's good for me. And my kind of fundamental thing in my life always has been the belief that if you can measure something, you can improve it. That's what I really focus on. And I believe that we are now in the cusp of being able to build these tools that are able to measure our body and our health and nutrition in a way that we can actually see the outcomes, not on the weight scale month later, but in real time, today, maybe minutes after you have eaten something. So that's, I think, the kind of the lay down of the world as I see it today.
Okay, so basically measurement, taking accountability. It doesn't seem like big business, wants that for us. It seems like they're making it very difficult in terms of food choices. If you go to the supermarket, in terms of where people can buy food these days, it just seems like it's the individuals like yourself and myself and the companies that we represent that have to be the pioneers in this space. Are we fighting government policies? Are we fighting sort of big food and, sort of big business in this battle?
Yeah, I mean, every good story, it needs a villain or enemy. Who do we fight against? We need to slay the dragon. And many people say that, especially in the US, that, the health insurance companies or the the government or maybe the big pharma is the dragon. But in the end, I think it really is the whole food system today we have created. That, I mean, again, like we can always talk about the negatives, but the bottom line is that, we are now feeding 8 billion people. I mean, yes, we have some starvation happening in Africa and a few other places, but we are producing more food. If we could divide the food waste equally, nobody would be hungry and most of us would be overweight if we just give the food to people. So we make food very affordable. At the same time, we make the food poison when you eat it at the wrong quantities, at the wrong time, and too much. So government, I think, can do something and should do something. And there's some examples already in Mexico, in Chile, in somewhere in Europe. People are starting to label the processed food like tobacco. And the early outcomes look very promising. I don't expect that to happen in the US anytime soon. It will happen in Europe. I don't know how it is in South Africa. Are you guys getting help from the government? But there should be a play. I think that government can regulate. But I think that the food industry as a whole and the whole lobby arm that they have, and it also goes past into agricultural lobby. That, in my mind, is the dragon that we need to change and slay.
Okay, good. Well, you've been a startup of or invest in like things like Aura and health tech, and looking at your own health tech in Elo. Is it going to become sort of more bespoke, personalized medicine for those that can afford it? Obviously, in Africa, we've got sort of third world problems. Just feeding people, sanitation, hygiene, those things, is paramount here. But for the people that have the funds, is it going to be more unique, bespoke, personalized medicine that's going to be the way of the future?
I think that there are going to be many different things, and medicine is of course very complicated, and we are doing now good work in some cancers and many other things we are kind of eradicating out. I think for COVID we have done amazing things to help people not die in the quantities we could have died before. But if you look at what we are trying to do at Elo, for example, our principal idea is to focus on how do we make food and turn food from the cause of disease, the poison, how do we turn it into medicine? Because like I already said, it takes about 20 to 30 years to get sick by eating the bad food. But the good thing is that it can only take a year to heal your body with the right nutrition. So it's like 30 years of neglect and 1 year you're going to be fine. That's pretty amazing. And we are seeing the first outcomes now with companies, for example, like Verda Health. It's a company in the US that is reversing type 2 diabetes with ketogenic diet. And that's mind-boggling. I mean, the doctors can't believe it, but they have done thousands of people now who actually have gotten out of insulin. And what are we trying to do at Elo? We're trying to take the body, the data from your body, think about the blood biomarker testing at home, think about the wearable devices. I have a Whoop, I have an Oura Ring, I have an Apple Watch, just to test and learn more. And we're taking that information and we are turning it with AI into right nutrition plan you need, and then delivering you personalized supplements, personalized products around food and nutrition. And that is basically the easiest way to help people, because it becomes almost automatic. You don't need to think about it too much. And I think that's important. Like you already said, when you go to the store and look for groceries, almost every item that you have around the cash register, end of the aisle, right on your eye level, it's food that you should never eat. And all the good stuff is kind of hidden in the outskirt corner of the store. And that's how it is. And it's been for a long time. And today, I think we are just being bombarded by the bad food to an extent that we can't make good decisions. And it's always the athlete or the celebrity who is promoting the sugar drink or the alcohol or the bad food. And if they are kind of looking good and they kind of eat it, I mean, what are we saying no to? I mean, it's a really difficult conundrum, because we are weak, and some of the foods that are most unhealthy, they are also addictive. They are like drugs.
So tell us a bit more about ELO. I've looked into it. You've got the dried blood spot analysis. You send the kit there. I think that's technology you must look at in terms of Africa and doing, biomarkers like your vitamin D, your B12, homocysteine, I think a full lipid profile. But are you gathering that data? Then you're gathering heart rate variability, REM sleep, gathering everything from the Aura or from the Whoop or the Apple Watch, how many steps a person's taking. Do you take all the data, not only the blood data, but all the lifestyle data, how many hours you're spending outside, and then you put it into a dashboard, and then the algorithm works out exactly what supplements and what food and what exercise needs? But tell us the extent of ELO and how it actually works.
I think you laid it out great in the way how you said it. Today, we've been doing this for a couple of years. So we now have the blood spot analysis that we do 13 biomarkers that you listed. And we also add A1C for diabetes. We do also ferritin for iron, so to understand your minerals as well. We take that data. We, of course, do an extensive health questionnaire, not probably different than what you do with your patients. And then we collect the wearable data. Today, we use Apple Health to connect to the different wearable devices. Not everybody has an Apple Watch. You might have something totally different. Most devices can be now connected to Apple Health. Today, we don't get HRV because Apple Health doesn't really have a good system today to get that yet. It will be there, I think, in the coming year. But we do get the sleep, we do get activity, the workouts, the steps, and so forth. And of course, now you have really interesting things coming from Apple, like AFib. You have the VO Max, so you can actually assess the person pretty well, and not one time, but in real time. Many people have connected their weight scale into the Apple Health. Some people connect even like a blood pressure monitor. Some people are now talking about connecting glucose monitor. So a lot more data will be flowing into the Apple Health. So we take that data. Today, we don't have yet everything built on a dashboard because, you probably have used the devices, and it's a lot of work to make a really good representation of, like, let's say, sleep or activity or workout. In a way, it would be valuable for you to look at it and learn something related to nutrition. That linkage is very difficult to build, and how do you visualize it is actually quite difficult challenge. And I've been working on this problem for 20 years, so I know it's hard. It takes years to build a really good app that will not only give you stuff and data, but actually give you insights that are helping you to change behavior. So once we get that done, we have an AI model that is looking at all that data and giving you the right plan. And we know this is complicated for people. Most people, they have heard about many of these things. They have heard about the test, but they don't really truly know what do they mean. Many people have talked about and heard about, different supplements, talk about, of course, vitamins, minerals, some natural compounds like, green tea extract, berberine, and others. We might know about them on a name basis, but we don't know what they really truly do. So what we wanted to do at ELO, we added a person into the mix. So in the beginning, when you get your plan, you will always talk to a dietitian who will walk you through your information, your plan, and your goals, and basically build your plan. I bet that's something that you do with most of your patients, and you help them to kind of understand what they should do. And that, to me, is the most important factor of the beginning, because then you build trust, you build accountability, and that person will be then there in the app 24/7. You can communicate with them every day if you want. Some people do it daily, some people do it weekly, some people do it never. I've been on the platform now for 2.5 years myself, and I don't need to talk all the time. I'm pretty kind of self-guided, but sometimes I have a question that I can ask, I get the response same day. So pretty powerful vehicle. Then what we do every 90 days today, we test again your blood work. And of course, we get daily feedback on your activity, your recovery, and so forth. And over time, we are creating this sort of viewpoint. Where did you start, and where do you want to go, and where did you go? And if something is not having any impact, you know as much as we do, and we are more than happy to have a dialogue about it. change the plan, change the behavior. And I mean, what we do is based on 3,500 clinical trials today around the supplements and the biomarkers we work with. So it's all the data today and all the science we have on the planet. And I bet you know this better than I do, but half the science is probably bullshit. I mean, it was a study baked by some drug company or some food company or whatever, ingredient company, and they had 40 people somewhere random place in the world, and they got a certain outcome. Now we are running that again with 10 times more people, and we are not seeing the same outcome. So we are like, maybe that study was bollocks. I mean, like, yeah. And maybe half the studies we have today powering our AI are actually not valid studies. We can invalidate them. Some studies we have seen to be accurate, and now we are getting very good, for example, at vitamin D. We will be able to help everybody to get their vitamin D on optimal level in 90 to 180 days. And vitamin D, of course, as you know, has a big impact on COVID resistance and overall like your health of a human.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're using Apple Health. That's quite interesting to gather a lot of the data. You see you're going to be gathering more data points. You've developed your own AI algorithm from what it sounds like. So taking 10,000 steps is maybe more important than your homocysteine level. You've put that into place in terms of what are the most important, like we've also got a lot of health coaches, Ari, in Made to Thrive. We use health consultants and coaches because they've got more time. They can speak to people, WhatsApp them, guide them, whether it's food, lifestyle, sunlight, being outside, grounded, all these things that doctors that are really, really busy, inundated with patients because we don't have enough doctors worldwide and in South Africa and beyond. The consults are getting to 10 minutes or 7 minutes according to some US stats. But the health coach has time, they can connect, they can speak and put a plan in place. So you're gathering the data from these 13 biomarkers plus Apple Health and then putting a bespoke plan for that person in place and then reassessing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And today we ship you the supplements, for example, in a daily packet or like a monthly box with a daily packet with your name on. So making it really easy to consume it. So you don't need to worry about the powder or a pill bottle or something like that. And of course, everything is recyclable or compostable. So there's no waste coming to waste.
Okay. And then the health coach does all the lifestyle. So you need to eat this food. You need to do this with your nutrition. You need to do intermittent fasting. You need more recovery. So that's not built into the platform as yet.
Some of that is coming to you on the day-by-day coaching from the messaging component. And right now we are working on kind of integrating. We call this programs, and you do this yourself, so you know how complicated it is to build a program for, let's say, cholesterol or A1C. It's a very complicated reaction you have to create in the body to be able to heal these issues that are often leading into chronic conditions that are very difficult to reverse. And we are trying to do it early. So most of the patients we have or members we have are not yet chronically ill. They are maybe sliding to become chronically sick, but they are not yet. So it's the right time to help them, because it's more difficult if you have somebody who is already on insulin, somebody who is already 45, 50 pounds overweight, to go back and kind of reverse them. That's difficult to do.
Okay, so where do you see the future? Do you see a dashboard for Elo Health, and do you see it like getting different data points that are like how much time you are standing? Apple Health has got that. How much you're outside? Sunlight. Radiation. Are you just going to build more data points into your platform? Then alter your algorithm to make sure that the person knows, okay, take these supplements, and then you might even get to a place where the algorithm has decided that they're going to now have like whatever $1,000 a month for food. So then they're going to get sent the food based on their data points. Is that the way you see it? I mean, when I say the future of health, I think it is going to be very bespoke and unique, and it's going to be very tailored. Is that the way you see it going to prevent disease and treat chronic disease?
That's the pathway we are building towards, and it all happens step by step. So we started with the box of blood biomarkers, wearable data, and supplements, because you have one-on-one correlation. and it's pretty easy to kind of measure and treat and then measure again and show the outcomes. You build trust to your members if you can show that the numbers are going in the right direction, up or down, depending what you want. And then I think our playbook is really to add more products. So I see Elo as more of a marketplace in the end. That is a marketplace created by your body on a daily basis and having a feedback loop that happens all the time. And that marketplace in the long term can be plugged into the healthcare ecosystem. It can be plugged into health plan. It can be plugged into employer. It can be even plugged into a chronic condition management program that we can then provide at risk all those different things that are going to help. But that will take many cycles of learning and validation, because today nobody can do it in the world. So 5 to 10 years from today, we will have a world where nutrition will be reimbursed by employers, by government, by health insurance companies, and that world will be, I hope, beautiful one. And it will be not dollars, but it will be hundreds of billions of dollars of money being subsidized, and many people will eat for free as long as they eat the right type of food, hopefully delivered for them. So that's how I see it, and I believe the outcomes are going to be absolutely positive compared to what we do today, which is managing these people and not healing any of them. Half the Americans have chronic conditions today. None of them will be healed today by medication like insulin.
Yeah. Okay. So, what I say often to, our corporate clients and executives that we deal with is that food and nutritional changes is the most simple thing you can do, but it's the hardest thing you can do. So it's, if we've got a tree, it's the lowest hanging fruit, but it's the hardest fruit to pull off the tree. It's right there. You can change it. It's in your control, but it's very, very difficult. You're using basically an app or AI to remind people, and then you're making people accountable to a health coach. Is that sort of the measure you can manage sort of system that you're thinking about? Because change and transformation, sustained transformation, is a very difficult thing for people to adopt. How are you sort of keeping people in your program, ensuring that they stick to what they should be doing and that they sustain their transformation?
Today, I think, again, we are fairly early, working with thousands of people, not tens of thousands of people. I think the coach component, having the person, the dietitian working with you, has a really powerful motivational factor and retention factor. Other point that we have seen is that when you do data collection and measurement, and you can craft that out in a dashboard and an app that you have every day with you, it has a really powerful impact. And I think you're right about the fact that having the app, a phone, is so much more personal to you and closer to you than any PDF or website can ever be, or email. It's there to notify you on a daily basis. And keep in mind that with Elo today already, you are interacting with us multiple times a day, every day. So this becomes actually one of the products that you interact more than 99% of the apps that you have on your phone, or products that you are buying today. You go to your gym maybe 3 times a week, but with Elo, you interact 15, 25 times a week. So it's a pretty active product. And I think one point that you said, collecting data from, let's say, pollution, environment, all these things. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do. I built 2 data companies before I started Elo, and I worked on the big data for over a decade. And data itself has no value or no meaning. What has value are insights. And it's really interesting to work on this, because my CTO, my co-founder, is a person we work now with 4 companies already. Started at Nokia 15, 20 years ago. My other co-founder, he worked 10 years at Apple. So he was one of the designers reporting to Johnny Ive. And he built some of the products you likely use every day now. And we all love. Hundreds of millions of people use the products he started and built. And he was the guy who was initiating this idea of Apple Health. And he was there, of course, working with the Apple Watch and all this stuff. So he has seen this in his eyes that, when you do things like the Apple Watch rings, they have a fundamental impact on human life, those rings might be the biggest weight loss tool ever invented by man. 100 million people follow the rings every day. That's a lot of people, way more than Weight Watchers or whatever you have. And I was there in a room, I don't know, 20 years ago at Nokia, when a team invented the step counter. We came up with the 10,000 steps. And, I saw the impact on people's lives when we had 50 million people 2 years later tracking their steps every day. And we built that app, and, that we built the da-da sound that came in your device. And I also saw, I was in the team that built the first smartphone, N95 at Nokia back in the days. And I saw the impact on people and myself, like when you went from having a cell phone to have a smartphone. It was fundamentally different, product category. And we have all become addicted to our phones. We have all become addicted to social media. And I believe fundamentally, as the whole management team and the founding team, that you can take these things that we learned from the social media, from the mobile, from the games, and use them for good, for behavior change. So Elo ultimately will be also an app and a game. It's a game that makes you feel good and healthier. I spent 15 years building video games before I went to Nokia, and that's my kind of background. And I'm trying to combine what I learned in the gaming, what I learned in building this device for hundreds of millions of people, and building these apps before, and big data, and bringing that into the human health in an understandable, simple to use manner. And I don't know if we're going to succeed, but I know there will be companies that are going to build what we do today, and they will be massive companies in the size of Facebook and Google, because this is what people want. Everybody wants to feel healthy, good, and have this sort of positive feedback loop. Because you see this often, that when you get a person that you work with who has 30 kilos, 60 pounds of overweight, and you are able to help them to get rid of that, that person becomes an amazing person. They are given a new book of life in a way, and that book they want to write again. They will never go back into the old, because they know what it felt. And that to me is the most exciting thing. And even in the beginning now, we have been helping some small number of people who I think we changed their life. We might have given them 20 more years to live. And that's why I do this every day. It's just so empowering.
Brilliant. Give us a bit of your backstory. I found it was very interesting with your wife, and just unfortunately the tragedy you had in your life. Is a lot of people that I have on the podcast, they go from pain to purpose. They go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. They go through sort of confusion. They go through overwhelm, and then they make their life's mission. So tell us. I think it's very interesting for people to understand a little bit more about Ari and why he's doing this.
Yeah, I'm a person who is always believing the why. And often people talk about what they have done, what is in the resume. I ask always about the why, like, why do you want to do something? I always hire people with purpose. I always hire people who have the reason why they want to do something, because life is hard. If you have no reason behind it, you will never succeed. So I was 20 years old. My wife had a thyroid tumor. She was a healthy athlete, and suddenly you have a big lump in your neck. And that was taken away, and the other thyroid was taken partially away as well. That led into autoimmune diseases, hormonal imbalances, all these unknowns. We just don't know what to do about. And she was medicated with certain medications that made it impossible to get pregnant. So okay, you found the love of your life, and we've been together now 25 years, so it was a love of life. I can attest to that. But then you are suddenly in a moment that you're never going to get family, and of course that sucks. So we spent about a decade to use the Western medicine, and in the end, nutrition helped us to heal her body, lower inflammation, and let the body heal itself. And we finally were able to get pregnant. And then in the US, we spent many rounds of IVF and all this mess, and many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then happened that we lost our first son. Super unlucky, totally unrelated incident. But that was kind of my story, and it was 15 years of misery, and now we have 2 kids who are healthy and happy. So in the end, it was wonderful. But I decided 12 years ago to spend all my time working in the health and nutrition and human performance. So I started a company called Better Doctor to help people find doctors, and that company is now part of a bigger company. But it helps 200 million people in the US every year to find a doctor. So it's a pretty big impact, and that makes me feel very good every day. And at the same time, 12 years ago, we also started to invest in this space. And today we have invested 50 companies in human performance optimization, and it's been a growing area. So I think we are in 9 unicorns as a first investor. So it's been insanely profitable. Yeah. But it was a big decision, by the way, to go from, because I had the ultimate resume 10 years ago to start video game companies. I had been in the mobile gaming for longer than almost anyone, and all my friends founded companies like Rovio and Supercell and all these big companies that became massive. And I decided to do a U-turn and go into healthcare, and I knew nothing about it except being a super user. But what a ride it's been! Like 3 companies and met thousands of people who are doing what they do because they have a story. And many hundreds of people have told me their stories, and it's beautiful. I mean, people don't talk about it enough. That's why I talk about losing a child, having health issues publicly, because it's hard. But most of us have some stories inside us that we never talk about. You don't keep it in you. Talk about it. It helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for being vulnerable. I really appreciate that. If you look at all your data points, someone's listening now in South Africa. In fact, 31% of our audience is in the US, 49% in Africa. And thank God we're growing every single month. So just someone's listening now. Okay, they can't get the kit in South Africa yet. What are the biggest data points? People will say like, okay, ferritin's the most important, or getting 10,000 steps is the most important. If someone's listening now and they want to take action now, give them the 3 or 4 or 5, data points. Do they get an Apple Watch? Do they get an Apple phone to make sure that Apple Health is going to be tracking some things that then is going to give them feedback? What would you say to someone who's listening out there and they want to start?
Great question, and I've been getting this question like I don't know how many times over the last many years, and I always look at health as 3 different things. You have recovery, which is sleep, mindfulness, just stress. Then you have the nutrition. What do you eat? What do you put inside? And don't forget drink. And we talk about eating, but drinking is equally important. Yeah. We get many of the calories in this big Starbucks lattes or whatever you have. And then the last one is basically movement. I have stopped calling it exercise because I think for me it's more important to move your body. Yeah. And many of us, I'm a you're an athlete, I'm an athlete, but you don't need to be an athlete and race there every day. But you can move enough, go to the forest, walk there, get the pheromones from the trees, go hug a tree. Yeah. That will be important for you, and do it on a lunchtime, for example, now in a world where you don't have to do office that often. Yeah. But those 3 things are the key. And what you should measure, I think the number 1 measurement is the weight. If you look at the health of a human, the BMI is a really good proxy for health and lifespan. And there are some people who can live 100 and they are BMI 30, but that's very few and apart. I would keep and looking at the weight. I would also look at recovery. I'm a massive fan of the Oura, the sleep tracking ring company, and lucky. They are actually, I'm in Finland right now, and this is the hometown of Oura. So yeah. I was born in a town that they started the company, and I know some of the team members, founders for 30 years. What a thing they built! Million people are using it every day and actually getting real benefit. And the benefits are not maybe so easy to understand. I just talked with the Oura team a couple of days ago, and one of the key things I think they have created is a feedback loop on your REM sleep. And you of course know this, but most people might not. If you have 2 glasses of wine or maybe 3 beers when you go to the ball game, you will hardly have any REM sleep the night after that.
Yeah.
And if you look at the million people who have the Oura Ring, I bet half of them have almost cut away alcohol because of this. And what a powerful thing. If we give this to everybody, maybe they don't sleep better, but if they cut alcohol, what a wonderful world we're going to have, and how much healthier we're going to be, because alcohol is one of the worst things you can do to your body. Don't worry about a glass of wine every now and then, but if you drink like 3 beers every day, you will never sleep properly. And REM sleep makes your brain dull. You become stupid. I mean, that's just what it means. You're not going to be creative anymore.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, I think, I'm a big proponent of testing your blood biomarkers maybe once a year at least, because once you get the trajectory, your doctor or yourself, you can actually look at it and see where you're going. We can all debate about cholesterol, LDL, HDL, the particle sizes. I mean, some of the tests we do today in the common medicine are just wrong.
Yeah.
I think they are not going to give any insight. Some of them are important. But those are kind of the few things I think are the most impactful measurements. I mean, it doesn't need to be complicated. You want to go to the atomic units that are truly meaningful for you. We have so much data, like I said. Let's focus the view into the things that matter truly.
Brilliant. I mean, it's good that you got such a history with Aura. I met Peter Taylor at the Health Optimization Summit, and even eating earlier, something that Aura taught me is how important it is to try and give as much time. And if you are going to have alcohol, have it far away from when you're going to sleep. Have it earlier in the day. If you want that glass of alcohol, have it earlier in the day. So there's some fundamental shifts that I've realized. And I tell people one of the biggest things for your sleep is give yourself 3-4 hours before you go to bed. After you've eaten, that makes a huge difference. Or go for a brisk walk just after your supper. I think that's fundamental. So for me, sleep is important. Maybe because you've got such a rich history with Aura. A lot of these health biohackers out there and doctors, functional medicine doctors. I've been doing functional medicine for 13 years now. I find deep sleep and REM sleep are the two most important factors when it comes to sleep. I try and get my patients to 1.5 to 2 hours of each of those. Give us a little bit of your perspective on, the fundamentals of Aura. It's something that I don't check every day. I used to check it every day. I found I was getting a little bit sort of orthorexic, over-checking data points in that. But twice a week, I'm looking at trends. Give us possibly your unique sort of perspective on sleep cycles and what's important from a sleep audit perspective.
First, we are all different. Aura has never implemented compare data, because you and me are different, and it doesn't make sense to compare. If you have more deep sleep, I have less. It's not because I might not sleep well. I mean, you take your own data and you compare to your previous information. Aura has done amazing work to give you the trending view. You can see, I have 7 years of sleep data every night. That's a pretty cool data.
Yeah.
As an example, my youngest child was born about 3.5 years ago. A year and a half after she was born, my REM sleep was still completely low in like half an hour, because she was always, crying at night and coming to our bed and whatever. And then she was 2 years old, and my REM went back to 1.5 hours. So that's just the one example.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I think with the Aura, it's not so much about day by day, like you said. It's not a competition. But one thing I have done now for a long time, and I would recommend everybody to do who has a sleep tracker, set a rule of thumb for yourself. And my rule of thumb is that I will never, ever have 3 bad nights in a row. And I have been adamant about that for 5 years. And what it means, you're going to go to, the boys go out, first time in 2 years after COVID for a long weekend. And, third night, people going to the bar after, the dinner. I'm going to go hit the sack and go skiing next morning happily, or running or whatever, mountain bike. And the other guys are like, 3-day hangover, complaining about it. Same on travel. I used to travel a lot, 100 days a year around the world. And I often had these silly things. I went to London from San Francisco for 1-day meeting and then coming back. I never doing that again. I'm going to take 2 days, relax, because if you have 3 bad days in a row, that has a real impact in your health. in long term. And you can take it if you are 22, but if you're over 40, you just don't want to do that again. You might actually die. Like people are dying at the airports at jet lag because they're just so tired.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. Okay, maybe give us your variables on movement. What are people looking at? I mean, you now know about Apple Health. You've got probably a big data set just at Elo, getting Apple Health. I've never thought of combining Apple. I don't know, maybe because you're in the industry. I see as these big tech companies more harm than good, but I suppose we do need to take the good from what we can from tech. So you've used Apple Health. What is your perspective? Should people be looking at standing 5 hours a day and moving 10,000 steps? Is that reasonable? What would you say to the audience?
I think moving every day a little bit is great. Opting to walk instead of driving is great. Having a bicycle that you commute or move around, wonderful. It's not so much about 10,000 steps or 5,000. I mean, the 10,000 steps came in at the time because there was a Japanese study that was just only study that I think the guys found at Nokia back in the days. So there was no science really. I mean, it sounded like a nice number and, many people could do it. It wasn't really like it's just stuck. Like some things, they become memes and lores that, this was like a lucky coincidence that, 10,000 steps stuck and now hundreds of millions of people are trying to walk that many a day. That's kind of silly. But think about this. I'm involved in a couple of glucose monitoring companies, Levels Health and Super Sapiens. And so you put your glucose monitor here and you can see in real time what the impact of food has on your body. So you're going to have the pizza that is not good for you, and you see your data going all red every time. Fifth time you do it, you're not going to have a pizza anymore. But what I learned is that almost everybody has the same impact. So you're going to have a heavy meal. What does your mom tell you? What does it do? Or your dad, maybe even more. They're going to say that, okay, after heavy meal, you're going to go lay low and, get to the sofa and, read the paper or whatever. 100% wrong.
Yeah.
The right thing to do would be to go do not a quick walk, but do like a 15-minute walk and your glucose curve will go down immediately. You can have like a 2-hour spike of food that you're sensitive to. It could be rice for me. It could be corn or wheat for me. I haven't eaten wheat for 20 years, so I'm just really sensitive. But if I just go for a walk, the whole impact goes away. And that's something that, very few people knew before. But now, because of these companies, people have seen and tracking these things because they are tracking the what did you eat, and then they track when did you move, and they can actually see really clearly. And one point about the Apple Health, I mean, I'm an Apple fanboy, and I love the company. I'm inspired by the story of SteveStavs in many ways, and that's why I live in Silicon Valley personally. So that's kind of to know. But what Apple is doing today regarding the privacy is absolutely powerful. They're the only company almost in the whole set of big companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, others, that is taking privacy seriously. And what they're doing today for the Apple Health is super powerful. They just released actually today a white paper. It's a 60-page paper about what Apple Health is, and it's out in their website today. And it lays all the different things they have done. And Apple is a very patient company. It took them many years to build the iPhone, many years to build many of the devices they have today. But Apple Health and the health is the #1 thing they are working today on. And just think about what they're going to do in 10 years. Yeah. It will be absolutely powerful. So this thing in your wrist, and it can look, this, or it can be different. It will be tracking your glucose. It might be tracking some of your blood biomarkers in real time without any hole in your body or any extraction of anything from your body. And that to me is absolutely powerful thing that will happen. And when it happens, what we do will be completely different because the real-time feedback loop will make the game a lot better.
Yeah. What about health coaching? I'm a big fan of health coaching in functional medicine. Not many functional medicine doctors have embraced health coaching in South Africa. You know, if you look at the Community Cure by James Maskell, looking at different people in your community to help you, you know, live the lifestyle you want. There's a fantastic person you should link with called John Levy, who wrote the book, The Art of Influence. And it says that if you've got a friend that's obese, you've got a 40% increased chance of being obese yourself. So the community is very important. Using a health coach, which is part of your community. Do you think there's always going to be a space for the health coach in the future, even if the tech like Apple in 10 years' time is doing incredible things? They're putting a lot of effort into Apple Health. Is the human component always going to be there to help people along their health journey?
I hope they will. That's another topic that we could spend another hour talking. Yeah. That is one of my favorite topics, which is the AI and the change in the world that we will see in the next 20 years when the AI is maturing. I mean, we are not seeing anything today what the impact will be. And I think what we're going to do, I mean, we have 8 billion people today. We're going to have 9, 10 billion people soon. We need to do something. Like, we need to have meaning in our life. And the meaning comes, like we discussed, you know, it's this, you know, classic hero story or hero's journey where you have, you know, you start with the adversary and you win it and something good happens. We need these stories, but we also need to have employment. There has to be something to do. And we have today, maybe almost half the people already are doing what the computer does them to do. In 25 years from now, we have 85% of people are going to do what the AI will tell them to do. And in that world, I think all these professions like coaching, kind of like anything that is about dialogue and human interaction are going to be very, very important, because human is absolutely, it's essential for humans to have human contact. If you isolate a baby or you isolate an adult from the society, you know, imprisonment or sending them in Antarctica to work there alone, it changes us fundamentally fairly quickly. So we need to have the human bonding and the contact. And we know many of that, what happened during the COVID, if you lived alone, how miserable life that was. So I think coaching related to health will be a key. I think we will integrate the coaching to be part of the medicine. And today we have given the lab coat or the white coat and the stethoscope for the doctor. And most countries, even a nurse practitioner, can't really give care. I think we are kind of democratizing caregiving and slicing it in a way that the doctor is going to do certain things, the nurses are going to do certain things, the coaches and the dietitians and counselors are going to do something. Today is very kind of siloed. So I think there will be many, many more thousands of health coaches in every country.
Brilliant. Just to end off the show, I just want to thank you for your time, your calling, and your courage to work in the health space. I think there's a lot of growth, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for meaning, like you said, to transform lives. But for us here in Africa, AI and just tech is not as on the forefront as in Silicon Valley and the US. If a person's out there and obviously they're talking about REM sleep or deep sleep or tracking these three sort of areas that you said, which I think has simplified it a lot, is if they've got issues and they really want to look at them from a holistic point of view, how would they connect with sort of ELO? Are you distributing like internationally? Do you send the dry blood spot analysis back to the US? Do you have international countries that you work with? Or sort of what is the way forward if people want to connect with Ari or with ELO?
Today, we are only in the US market, mainly because of the data privacy rules are very difficult if you go from country to country. Blood collection through cross-border is almost impossible. Like you can't even send blood from country to country without having very specific method. So we are bound in the US. The good thing is that many countries are starting to have companies like ELO popping up. In Europe, there are a few already that are fairly similar. And what we have done at ELO, if you go to elo.health, we have written about 500 pieces of content today around idea of smart nutrition. Smart nutrition means that we are trying to make nutrition to be personalized for you, precise, science-based, and proactive, learning about you on a daily basis. So there's a lot of content on our website at elo.health. And of course, you can also follow Elo in the social at elo.health. And I'm the easiest person to find on the web. My Ari Tulla, I think I'm the only one with my name anywhere. And I'm pretty prevalent on the web. If you Google my name, you're going to find 50 pages of me.
Okay, brilliant. Just last thing from Ari, give us a message of hope. A lot of people are in despair, they downcast with regards to COVID, the chronic epidemic in South Africa. 80% of people over the age of 50 have hypertension, high blood pressure, significant problem causing a lot of issues. People think often there's no hope. People think they're just on a one road that's going to lead to sickness and disease. So just share your hope in terms of the future with regards to health and wellness.
I think I already talked about this briefly, but just think about this unique fact. All of us, if we follow the current diet, all of us will get sick in 20, 25 to 30 years. But today, if you take the step and you start to focus on eating better, moving a little bit, and trying to sleep better, it can only take 1 year to start the healing process. You're not going to be, running marathons overnight, but you can get to this positive feedback loop that will absolutely feel amazing. And it is doable for almost everybody. And that's what keeps me up every night and up in the morning, that I get excited, because it is something that most people don't know, but it is actually a fact now. We know it will work that well.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's incredible. That's really fundamentally important for people to know. And so we declare favor and blessing over you, that you would live out courageously the calling, Ari. Thank you so much for your time, your expertise, giving up the gaming world for the health world. I think we're in a better space for that. And maybe you can gamify a lot of the health apps that are going to come in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.